Wesley Hart didn't mean to climb a stranger's balcony, especially not with his 7-year-old daughter waiting in the car and a key jammed in his hand, but life hadn't exactly been easy since everything fell apart. The door to Unit 4B was locked again. And the landlord, a no-show. Again. Wesley's hands were raw from working double shifts at the auto shop, and his patience had worn down to the bone. He looked up at the fire escape, then down at the envelope taped to the apartment door with his name scrawled across it. Final notice. Eviction. "Daddy," a little voice called from the curb. Zara was sitting in the backseat of his old Honda, hugging her stuffed flamingo, her big brown eyes filled with worry. She didn't ask questions anymore, she was too used to the chaos. Wesley gave her a tired smile and waved. 2 minutes, baby girl. The only way in was through the balcony. The super had told him the woman upstairs hadn't been home in days. He figured if he could climb from her unit's balcony to his, he could push open the jammed glass door and get Zara's schoolbooks and her asthma meds. He didn't think anyone would be there. He definitely didn't expect to come face to face with a woman in a silk robe, holding a mug like it was a weapon, staring at him like he was either a psychopath or the dumbest man alive. "What the hell are you doing on my balcony?" she said, her voice sharp but not scared. Wesley froze, one foot on the railing, the other dangling midair. "Okay, I know how this looks. You're breaking in through my 3rd-floor balcony." "Technically," he muttered, "just passing through." She raised a brow, stepping forward. "Passing through, I live below you. My door's jammed, I'm not trying to rob you." "I swear." He held up his hands, careful not to fall. "I've got a kid in the car, I just need to grab her things." The woman crossed her arms. Her dark hair was pulled into a messy bun, her cheekbones sharp, her expression unreadable. She was beautiful in a way that made him momentarily forget the danger of plummeting to the street below. "Your name?" "Wesley Hart." She studied him for a beat. "And your daughter?" "Zara." Something in her eyes softened. "You have 3 seconds to get down before I call the cops." "Look, she sighed. "Fine, come in, through the door like a normal person. I'll let you through my place to the fire escape, but if you steal a single thing, I'm throwing you over the railing myself." He blinked. "You're serious?" "I am." Wesley stepped down onto her balcony, heart pounding, and she opened the sliding door. He ducked inside, trying not to stare at the massive penthouse-style loft. It didn't match the rest of the rundown building at all. Floor-to-ceiling windows, marble countertops, a baby grand piano in the corner. Who the hell was this woman? "This place is nice," he muttered. "Thanks. Try not to bleed on anything. You're dripping paint or grease or whatever that is." He glanced at his hands. "Right, sorry." "I work at a garage." She led him to the hallway without another word. The fire escape clanked as he climbed down toward his unit's balcony. He shoved the stuck door hard enough that it finally gave way and disappeared into his apartment for a few minutes. When he climbed back up to her place, Zara was trailing behind him, holding a blue inhaler and her flamingo. The woman crouched down. "Hey, sweetheart." Zara gave her a shy smile. "Hi." "She's fine," Wesley said quickly. "We'll get out of your hair." The woman looked between him and the girl. "You're locked out." "Yeah, landlord's a ghost. My key keeps getting stuck." She hesitated. "What's your plan tonight?" Wesley drew a breath. "I'll figure something out." Zara coughed suddenly, a dry wheeze that made Wesley's stomach twist. The woman stood. "You're not staying in your car with a sick kid." "I wasn't planning to, but you can stay here just for tonight." Wesley blinked. "What? I have 2 guest rooms. It's temporary, 1 night. I don't even know your name." She hesitated. "Gianna Foster." Zara whispered, "Like the cereal." "I wish," she grinned. "Come on, you both look like you could use a shower and a warm meal." Wesley swallowed, pride warred with desperation. "I don't want your charity. It's not charity, it's human decency." He looked at Zara. Her lips were pale, her eyes heavy. Then he looked back at Gianna. "All right," he said quietly. "Thank you, 1 night. That was all it was supposed to be." But later, after Zara had eaten 3 helpings of pasta, and Wesley had showered and changed into borrowed clothes, he walked into the kitchen and found Gianna pouring wine into 2 glasses. "You didn't have to cook," he said. "I didn't. That was my housekeeper's frozen lasagna." "But I'll take the credit." He laughed under his breath and took the glass she handed him. "You really live here?" he asked. In this building, Gianna leaned against the counter. Why, I don't look like someone who'd live above a broken door. No, he admitted. You look like someone who'd live in a high-rise in Manhattan, she smiled. I used to, but I needed quiet and space and rent control. He raised an eyebrow. You pay rent. She sipped her wine and didn't answer. Wesley looked around again. What do? Gianna paused. I'm the CEO of Foster and Ray. Wesley choked on his wine. The tech company? Yeah, he stared at her. You're joking. Nope, he set the glass down. So you're a billionaire or something like that. And you let some broke mechanic and his kid crash in your luxury apartment, she shrugged. You looked like you needed it. He shook his head, overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. Gianna looked at him for a long moment. You don't have to say anything. He held her gaze and something shifted, something quiet but real. There was a pull between them, unexpected and undeniable. Gianna broke the silence first. You're a good dad. Wesley cleared his throat. I try. You're more than trying. He didn't know what to make of her, or her kindness, or the way she saw right through him but didn't seem to judge. He also didn't know that this night, this ridiculous, accidental, broken door night, was the start of something that would change both of their lives forever. Gianna hadn't planned on waking up to the sound of cartoons echoing faintly down her hallway. She never kept the television on before 9, never let noise into her carefully constructed world of silence and control. But the moment she stepped out of her bedroom and saw Zara curled up on the couch in fuzzy socks, legs tucked beneath her, watching animated animals dance across the screen, she found she didn't mind the disruption. Wesley was in the kitchen, crouched in front of the cabinet under the sink, his back to her. The hem of his borrowed t-shirt rode up slightly as he reached for something, revealing a long, pale scar running just above his waistband. You're up early, she said, leaning against the doorway. He startled, bumping his head on the underside of the counter. Damn, sorry, I didn't mean to be loud. You weren't, she said, crossing her arms. What are you looking for? He held up a dripping pipe. Your sink's got a slow leak. I can fix it if you've got a wrench. Gianna blinked. You're fixing my kitchen. You let me stay here, he said, setting the pipe down on a towel. Least I can do. I have a maintenance guy. He charges triple on weekends and takes 6 days to show up, but he exists. Wesley stood, wiping his hands on a rag. I'm here now. She studied him as he turned to face her. There was something grounding about the way he moved, unhurried, sure-footed, like a man who knew how to solve problems without fanfare. I'll get my toolbox, she said after a pause. It's in the hall closet. As she disappeared down the hallway, Wesley turned toward his daughter. You doing okay, bug? Zara nodded without looking away from the screen. I like it here. Wesley's jaw tightened. He didn't want her getting used to luxury they couldn't afford. But he didn't have the heart to tell her that yet. Not when she was finally breathing comfortably again. Gianna returned with a sleek metal case. It's mostly for show, she said, handing it over, but there should be something useful in there. He flipped it open and let out a low whistle. This is the most organized toolbox I've ever seen. I label things, she replied. No kidding. As he got to work beneath the sink, she knelt beside him, watching his hands. Where'd you learn plumbing? Trial and error. When you've lived in enough places with faulty wiring and busted pipes, you either learn or you drown. She didn't respond right away. Then quietly, you've moved around a lot. Too much. He tightened a bolt. Zara's been to 3 schools in 2 years. I'm trying to keep her in one place now. Somewhere stable. Gianna tilted her head. Is that why you were locked out? Rent issues? He didn't look up. We're behind. I pick up extra shifts, but it's not always enough. I didn't think we'd get kicked out so fast. That's illegal without a court order. Doesn't stop them from trying. She bit her lip, something unreadable flickering in her expression. You need a lawyer. I need a miracle. Gianna stood, walked to the fridge, and pulled out a bottle of juice. You know, when I started Foster and Ray, I was 23 and sleeping on a futon in a shared loft with 6 other people. I built the company with a credit card I pretended wasn't maxed out. Wesley looked up. I thought you had investors, eventually. But at the start, it was just me and desperation, so I get what it's like to claw your way through. He tightened the last bolt and stood. Thanks, but you're not clawing anymore. No, she said, setting the juice on the counter. Now I'm just trying to remember what it felt like. Zara appeared beside them, her flamingo tucked under one arm. Can we go to the park? Wesley crouched to her level. We don't want to bother Miss Gianna too long. Gianna knelt beside them. There's a playground 5 blocks from here. I can drive. Wesley shook his head. We don't want to impose. You're not. I could use some air. He hesitated, then nodded. All right, if you're sure. Gianna stood and grabbed her keys from the bowl by the door. I don't say things I'm not sure about. Wesley followed her out with Zara skipping ahead. He wasn't used to people offering things without strings, and he definitely wasn't used to a woman like Gianna, sharp, polished, unfiltered, offering anything at all. The car parked in the garage below was nothing short of absurd. Sleek, silver, and probably worth more than every apartment in the building combined. Zara gasped. It looks like a spaceship. Gianna opened the door for her. It drives like one too. Wesley helped his daughter into the back seat, then slid into the passenger side. This car doesn't belong in this neighborhood. Gianna started the engine. Neither do I. The park was quiet, with only a few early families scattered across the grass. Zara ran straight for the swings. Wesley stood at the fence watching her, arms folded across his chest. Gianna came to stand beside him. She's a good kid. She's everything. They watched in silence for a while, then she asked, Where's her mom? He didn't answer right away. She left when Zara was 2, said it was too much, too hard. She wanted freedom. I'm sorry, he shrugged. I'm not. Zara and we figured it out. Gianna looked at him, her voice softer now. You don't let anyone help you, do you? No one ever stuck around long enough to try. She held his gaze. I'm not offering out of pity, Wesley. He didn't break eye contact. Then why? Gianna exhaled. Because I feel something when I talk to you. And I haven't felt anything real in a long time. He wasn't ready to admit it, but he felt it too. That strange electric pull, like gravity had quietly rearranged itself around her. Zara called from the monkey bars. Daddy, watch me. He waved to her, then turned back to Gianna. This can't be normal for you. What? Letting strangers into your home, offering rides, hanging out at parks with a mechanic and his kid. Gianna smiled, but there was an edge to it. It's not, but maybe I needed something abnormal. They fell into silence again, but this one wasn't awkward. It was full of things, unspoken possibilities neither of them had dared to imagine before now, and somewhere between the laughter of a child and the quiet weight of shared stories, something had shifted. Not loudly. Not in the way explosions announce themselves, but in a way that would be impossible to undo. Gianna's boardroom was a far cry from the cracked sidewalks and peeling paint of the building she shared with Wesley and Zara. The table gleamed under recessed lights, surrounded by executives in sleek suits and polished confidence. But for the first time in years, Gianna found it difficult to focus on the numbers projected on the glass wall. Her mind kept drifting to a pink flamingo plush toy left on her couch, a pair of grease-stained hands fixing her leaky faucet, and the man who wore quiet resilience like armor. Gianna, her CFO, Ellen, tapped her pen against the table. You're unusually quiet. Gianna leaned forward. We're cutting back on international expansion until after Q3. I want the capital redirected to the STEM Mentorship Initiative instead. There was a flicker of surprise around the table. Ellen narrowed her eyes. That's a personal project. We can't shift that much funding without board approval. We'll frame it as long-term brand investment, Gianna said, voice steady. Put together the numbers. We'll vote next week. Ellen hesitated, then nodded. Gianna knew what they were thinking. The Gianna Foster they knew didn't operate on sentiment, but something had shifted subtly, silently, and she didn't owe them an explanation. Later that evening, when she returned home, she found Wesley on her terrace, the skyline melting into dusk behind him. He was pacing slowly, phone pressed to his ear, his voice low but tense. No, she needs something stable. I'm not dragging her halfway across the state again just because you found a discount sublet. A pause. I appreciate the offer, but I'm not taking her out of school again. We're fine. I'll figure it out. He ended the call and exhaled, not noticing her until she stepped closer. Bad news, she asked. Wesley slipped the phone into his back pocket. Just my brother. He thinks I should move in with him until I get back on my feet, but he lives 2 towns over. Zara's finally settling in at school, so that's not happening. Gianna leaned on the railing beside him. She's made friends. She's got 2 girls in her class she draws with during lunch. She brought home a picture of stick figures holding hands yesterday. He smiled faintly. That's more stability than she's had in years. Then I'm glad you stayed. Wesley glanced at her, something unreadable in his expression. I don't want to overstay my welcome. You haven't, she hesitated. Actually, I've been thinking about that. There's a space downstairs in the building, used to be a real estate office. It's empty now, but the plumbing and electric still work. I own the lease. I was going to convert it into a studio, but that never happened. He studied her. You're offering it to me. You could turn it into a small apartment. I'll waive rent for 6 months. After that, we can talk. Wesley stared at her, silent. I'm not doing this out of guilt, she added. I'm doing it because I know what it's like to need someone to take a chance on you. He folded his arms. I've never had this many offers without strings attached. Maybe it's time you did. He didn't answer right away. Then quietly, I don't want Zara thinking this is permanent. It doesn't have to be, she turned toward him, but you could build something here if you want to. Wesley looked out at the city, the distant hum of traffic rising beneath them. I'd need a second job. The garage pays okay, but not enough to fix up a space. Gianna reached into her jacket and pulled out a card. One of my partners runs a fleet service. They're hiring night mechanics. It's decent pay, reliable hours. He took the card, turning it over in his hands. You don't stop, do you? She gave a small laugh. I'm not very good at sitting still. Wesley met her eyes. What are you good at? Gianna tilted her head. Reading people. Then what do you read when you look at me? She hesitated, then answered honestly. Someone who's been burned so many times he flinches when someone lights a match, but you still stand close enough to keep your kid warm. He didn't look away. You're not what I expected. I get that a lot. A beat of silence passed, heavy with things neither of them could say yet. Then a small voice floated through the open door. I brushed my teeth, Wesley called back. Good job, Bug. Get your pajamas on. Gianna watched him, a strange ache blooming low in her chest. She hadn't expected this. Not the girl with the quiet eyes, not the man with calloused hands and a guarded soul. And certainly not the way her breath caught every time he looked at her like she was something he didn't know how to touch. Gianna, he said suddenly, voice lower now. Why are you really helping me? She didn't look away. Because it feels like the first decision in a long time that doesn't come with a price. Wesley nodded slowly, then stepped back toward the door. I'll think about the space. Take your time. He paused at the threshold. I won't take long. That night, Gianna poured herself a glass of bourbon and opened the folder on her desk. Inside were contracts old, impersonal, transactional. Then she opened a new document and began drafting the lease for the downstairs unit. Her hand hovered over the rent clause. After a moment, she typed, Deferred 6 months, renewal conditional on tenant's discretion. It was reckless, possibly unwise, but as she glanced toward the hallway where Zara's laughter echoed faintly, she didn't care. Whatever this was, whatever they were stepping into, it was already too late to turn back. Zara twirled in the middle of the newly cleaned downstairs unit, her socks sliding against the polished floor as she let out a delighted squeal. Daddy. It echoes. Wesley leaned against the doorframe, a toolbox at his feet, arms crossed loosely over his chest. That's because it's empty, kiddo. But it won't be for long, she grinned, running over to peek at the rolled-up carpet leaning against the wall. Are we really gonna live here? We are, he said, voice quiet with something heavier than pride. Starting tomorrow. Gianna set down a box of dishes on the counter and turned to him. That was fast. I took the second job, Wesley said, reaching for the drill. It's overnight shifts, but they're steady. Boss didn't blink when I said I needed Sundays off for Zara. I'm glad, she said. You deserve steady. He gave her a look, then one that held more than gratitude. There was weight behind it, something unspoken that neither of them had tried to name yet. But it hummed in the air between them. Zara darted back toward Gianna. Can I help you unpack? Gianna knelt, opening the box. Absolutely. As the two of them sorted plates and glasses, Wesley began fitting the cabinet doors back onto their hinges. The space had been stripped bare years ago, but now, with fresh paint and the scent of lemon oil in the air, it felt like something was starting. By evening, the furniture Gianna had ordered on a rush delivery was assembled. A modest couch, a small dining table, a low twin bed for Zara. She hadn't asked Wesley, just did it. And when he noticed the note she'd left in the kitchen drawer with a grocery card tucked beside it, he didn't say anything. But he looked at her differently for the rest of the night. They had dinner on the floor, paper plates balanced on their laps, the pizza box open between them. Gianna didn't usually eat carbs after 5, and she'd never sat cross-legged on a rug in a space that still smelled faintly of drywall, but somehow, it felt like the only place she wanted to be. "Your place is gonna be so pretty," Zara said through a mouthful of crust. "It already feels like a home." Wesley brushed a hand over his beard. "You think so?" Gianna nodded. "It does." After Zara fell asleep, Wesley walked Gianna to the building's back exit, the hallway dark and quiet. He paused at the door, one hand on the knob. "I don't know what this is," he said, eyes on hers, "but I know what it's not." "What isn't it?" she asked. "It's not temporary anymore." Gianna's breath caught. "I was hoping you'd say that." He stepped closer, his voice low. "I haven't let myself want anything in a long time. I didn't think I had the right." "You do. I want you." She didn't hesitate. "Then have me." Wesley closed the distance between them, and when his mouth met hers, it wasn't tentative or unsure, it was full of all the things they hadn't said, all the moments they'd shared that chipped away at their walls without them realizing it. It was a kiss that felt earned, not rushed. Real, when they finally pulled apart, Gianna rested her forehead against his. "I've spent most of my life building things I thought mattered, but this feels more real than anything I've built." Wesley ran his thumb along her jaw. "Then let's build it right." They parted with a promise instead of a goodbye. Weeks passed, and the rhythm of their lives began to entwine. Wesley worked nights but was always there for Zara's mornings. Gianna started coming home earlier, carving out hours where she wasn't a CEO but just Gianna, a woman who'd fallen into something she hadn't seen coming and didn't want to lose. They didn't live together, not yet, but their lives overlapped constantly. Shared dinners, school pickups, lazy Sundays filled with movies and board games. Zara had started calling Gianna G without prompting, and the first time she did it, Gianna had to turn away to hide how much it affected her. One rainy evening, Gianna came home to find Wesley waiting outside her door, his shirt damp, his expression unreadable. "I got the call," he said. She unlocked the door and stepped aside so he could come in. "What call?" "From the landlord. The guy who owns the unit below yours. He's selling." "And he said the new owner is me." Gianna blinked. "You bought your apartment?" "I used the savings from the second job for the down payment. The rest is a mortgage I can handle." He looked at her. "We're not going anywhere." She stared at him, 1,000 emotions crashing into each other. "You didn't tell me you were doing that." "I wanted it to be mine, for Zara." She stepped forward. "It's more than that, Wes," he nodded. "Yeah, it's for you too." Her heart thudded and she reached for his hand. "You're not scared of what this is?" "I was. But not anymore." "I love you," she said, the words falling out like a truth she'd been holding too long. He grinned, pulling her into his arms. "I love you, so damn much." The next morning, Gianna stood in front of a small crowd gathered in the park near the building. The press was there, cameras flashing. "As part of Foster and Ray's new urban reinvestment program," she said into the mic, "we're starting with this block. Affordable housing, after-school programs, and job training centers, because cities are more than skylines. They're people." When she stepped down, Wesley was waiting with Zara on his shoulders. Gianna kissed the girl's cheek, then turned to Wesley. "You're a hard act to follow," he said. "Good thing you're not following. We're doing this together." That night, they danced in Gianna's living room, barefoot and laughing, the city lights flickering outside the windows. Zara fell asleep on the couch, her flamingo tucked into the crook of her arm. And as Wesley pulled Gianna close, resting his forehead against hers, everything else faded. She'd been a woman who built empires. He'd been a man clawing his way toward solid ground. They had found something bigger than survival. They had found each other. The first official night in the new apartment began with rain tapping gently against the windows, the kind of rain that made the world feel folded in on itself, quieter, more intimate. Gianna stood in the doorway with a bag of groceries in one hand and a key in the other. The key had been Wesley's idea. He'd handed it to her earlier that morning without ceremony, just a quiet, You'll need this." Inside, the space had transformed from sparse to warm. Zara's drawings lined the fridge, her shoes piled by the door. The couch had a blanket draped over the back, and the scent of roasted garlic hinted that Wesley had cooked something ambitious. "You're early," he said, appearing from the kitchen with a towel slung over one shoulder. "I finished the pitch early and skipped the drinks after." She set the bag on the counter. "I wanted to be here." Wesley took the bag and began unpacking in silence, sliding oranges into the bowl, setting the bread on the cutting board. She watched him move methodical, grounded, and felt the now familiar warmth of being home, not just in a place but in a person. Zara came rushing in from the hallway, her pajama top half buttoned and hair in a wild tangle. "I'm ready for the movie." Gianna crouched to adjust the buttons. "You sure?" "It's a school night. I already did my reading, and Daddy said I could stay up for one movie since it's our first night here all together." Wesley raised his hands. She negotiated hard. Gianna laughed softly. "All right." One movie. They piled onto the couch, Zara between them, the screen glowing in the dim living room. Halfway through, her head lolled onto Gianna's shoulder. She was out cold before the credits rolled, her breathing even and soft. "I'll carry her," Wesley said, standing and gently lifting Zara into his arms. Gianna followed him to the bedroom, pulling back the blankets as he laid her down and tucked her in. Back in the kitchen, Gianna leaned against the counter. "She's growing fast. Too fast," Wesley said, pouring 2 glasses of the wine she had brought. "She told me yesterday she wants to be a scientist." Gianna smiled. "That's new. She said she wants to invent something that lets people talk to their feelings so they stop getting confused. That's dangerously close to genius." Wesley handed her a glass. "She gets that from you." Gianna raised an eyebrow. "We share no blood." "No, but she watches you." "She's learning what calm looks like, what strength looks like." There was a beat of quiet before Gianna said, "I never thought I'd want this." "A kid? No," she said, then paused. "A life that wasn't just mine." "I got so used to protecting everything I built that I forgot why I built it in the first place." Wesley looked at her over the rim of his glass. "And now, I want all of it. The mess, the quiet mornings, the late-night homework chaos. I want you." He set his glass down. "Then marry me." Gianna blinked. "You're not serious." "I've never been more serious. I don't have a ring, not yet, but I'll get one. Hell, I'll get 5 if that's what it takes. I don't want to wait. I don't want to question it. I want you, Gianna. I want to wake up next to you and fall asleep knowing you're here." She stared at him, heart pounding. "I know it's fast," he continued, "but everything with you has been fast and right." She closed the distance between them and kissed him, slow and certain. When she pulled back, her voice was steady. "Yes," Wesley exhaled, pulling her into his arms. "You're not going to want some big wedding, right? I own a luxury fashion empire and a tech company. Of course I want a big wedding." He groaned into her neck. "You're going to make me wear a suit, aren't you? With a tie. I'll do it. But only because I love you." They didn't wait long. 3 weeks later, Gianna stood at the top of the rooftop deck she'd transformed into a garden venue in Midtown. The skyline glittered around them, and every guest in attendance, from Wesley's coworkers to Gianna's board members, watched as Zara led the procession down the aisle, tossing handfuls of white petals with a solemnity that made everyone smile. Gianna followed, her gown a tailored silk creation designed by her head seamstress, simple but stunning, with a long open back and hand-sewn details that shimmered under the overhead lights. Wesley stood waiting in a dark navy suit, his tie slightly crooked, his eyes never leaving hers. The ceremony was short, the vows personal. When Wesley promised to love her with all the patience he'd learned and all the fire she awakened in him, she felt it in her chest. When Gianna promised to let herself be known, to let herself be loved completely, he held her hands tighter. Afterward, they danced under the stars, the city a blur behind them. Zara bounced between tables, accepting compliments on her flower crown and declaring herself the boss of cake decisions. Later, when the guests were gone and the lights had dimmed, Wesley carried Gianna into their shared apartment, the same one he'd once broken into through a balcony. He set her down gently and whispered, "I still can't believe it started with a locked door." She kissed him, then whispered, "It started with you showing up." Years passed and the apartment changed again. More art. A second bedroom when Zara asked for space. Then another when a baby boy entered their lives 3 years later with Gianna's eyes and Wesley's stubbornness. They still worked, still chased dreams. Gianna expanded her mentorship programs. Wesley opened his own garage nearby, offering apprenticeships to kids who'd been told they'd never be more than where they came from. But every night, no matter how long the day had been, they came home to each other. And not once did either of them take it for granted. Because love had found them not in perfection, but in the spaces between survival and hope, between locked doors and open hearts, and they never stopped choosing it. Every single day.